call the Committee of the Whole to order. The purpose is to discuss tourism. We have to make a decision on who we are choosing as our agent for the I Love New York program by November 3rd in order to secure our spot in the funding for 2016. So hopefully we can come to an agreement tonight, and if we do, we can move it to full board or vote on it in committee here, or if not, call a special meeting within the next week.
Sorry.
Open it up to discussion.
Okay. Well, just from my very short experience, but I give a lot to my job, I know that the work that's entailed with the I Love New York program is lengthy. I don't know if we could pick it up, and it's not something, the tourism program isn't something that I want to risk. It's something that's happening too haphazardly right now, and to just absorb it as we did the last time is not something I could support. We tried this before, and the I Love New York program, the staffing is very different, and we had experience in that application process before, and the chamber does do that. That is an extremely in-depth process that has to be done correctly for the matching funds. I think if we can work collaboratively and have a good communication, which I believe we can. I'm a huge supporter of working with the chamber. I think maybe there was a drop in communication, and that could have been on both sides, but going forward, I think nothing's beyond repair. So I believe in working harder and smarter for the betterment of Montgomery County, and I think that working regionally is better, which is why my support is with the chamber. It always has been. There's been some frustrations at times, but I think if we can work it out in another year, we can do it. It's hard to get the ball going in the momentum. But I look forward to hearing from my legislators.
I don't think there's anything that Legislator Wheeler said that I can disagree with. I think that at this point, I think the frustration of everybody begins with ourselves. I think unless we set our expectations of what we want, we can't expect anything from anybody else. I think that as far as the New York, I Love New York program, I would suggest that we continue with the chamber for at least another year for several reasons. One, I don't think a year was an ample time to get everything in place. And even if we had expectations, I don't know that it would have been enough time to get there. I think that we, as a legislative body, have to do our homework, and we have to provide whoever it is that's going to do it now or in the future with some parameters. What we expect from it, what the realities of it, and the review that I've done on it so far, to be honest with you, we've done a pretty poor job of it. So, Legislator Duchesne had sent me a link to Tioga County? Tompkins County, that has a pretty extensive tourism plan. So for keeping the New York, I Love New York program, I'd like to keep it with the chamber for another year while we determine what we want. So next year we can make a better decision, and at the same time we can reestablish our relationship with the chamber. And I, Mark and I have had some conversations and some emails, and we've talked about that. We both have shortcomings, both bodies, and it would give us time to work on them and come up with a better scenario.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat just a couple of things. The first is that really no one has addressed the extraordinarily high administrative costs. The dollar for dollar ratio of administration. We're putting up $55,000 to get this match, and it costs us $55,000 for administration. $1 out of $3, in other words, goes, if you include the I Love New York money, $1 out of $3 goes to administration. I don't think there's any good way to justify that. Certainly nobody here has done that yet, with respect to that ratio. It's inescapable. The second thing that bothers me even more, and I don't know, if we're doing this as a subsidy for the chamber, then I suppose we could look at it differently. But if you're just looking at it in terms of paying somebody to do that administration, that's a lot of money, the dollar for dollar match. The second thing is, we don't even know exactly what it is we're trying to do here. We have no baseline measurements. There are no metrics involved in determining whether these monies are being spent in a prudent manner to begin with, including the I Love New York match. So basically, we're being asked to spend this money just out of habit, I suppose, because it was done that way in the past, or because people were unhappy with when it was in the House. But I would make that very same criticism if we were doing that in the House. We don't know what we're trying to achieve, and we certainly have no way to measure any success or failure. Two rather simple points, but I think they're the most salient points there are with respect to the expenditure of any monies. Are you getting any value for the expenditure, and are you doing what you're trying to do, and how do you know that you're doing what you're trying to do? It's that simple. I just as soon see the thing go without funding for a year and use the money to establish a plan. Strategic plan, so that people in the community could take part in what they think we should foster, what the tourism program should look like. Perhaps we could set up an advisory board, much like you see in Tompkins County. And then we would establish a way to measure what we're trying to do. Thank
you. I think there's 4 legislators that aren't here. 4 people in Duke, that would be the majority. So if you want to postpone it, postpone it. I think if we want to put a position back in economic development, we can do that. I think that it is appropriate for the administration, because we don't have FICA, we don't have workman's comp, we have no other additional costs other than the administration and that outside firm and all of their consultant with the chamber and their professional expertise in this field. That's what we are hiring them to do, and giving that, if any questions that we have, I've contacted Mr. Kilmer, and he has always, if he didn't know the answer then, he's looked it up, he has been thorough and gotten back to me with those answers. And if we are so dissatisfied, then put this on the table and come back. If it's a job that we want to bring in-house, I would doubt we could do it with a full-time staffer and full-time benefits for less than that amount. At least a good time salary, good salary. But I'm only one vote, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not proposing bringing it in-house, because the same issues exist there. We don't know, there are no metrics for measuring and determining whether or not the expenditures would be successful or not. And also that program would just be determined by staff. So I'm looking for something broader than that when I say that we need to establish a strategic plan. Now, the director of the chamber is here. Maybe he can answer my questions with respect to the high cost of administration and whether or not there are metrics that he uses to determine whether or not his plans are successful or not.
Well, sure, thank you. The high cost of administration, you know, I think there's probably or possibly a little confusion as to what the whole program involves. And I'd rather view it as operating a business than actually administering a I Love New York grant. Because in the business, there's a lot more footwork, legwork, human hours involved than there is just by looking at that grant, determining where you're going to advertise the expenditures. And you have to spend them by state law, of course. What we do as a chamber, we hire a tourism director and a tourism associate for both counties. We have to segregate those two departments by law because we have to keep separate books, separate expenditures and such. Where the time consumption is, and I can give you an example. The other day I walked into the Montgomery County office that we have at River at the mall, and our tourism associate down there had a stack of brochures, the county brochure that I handed out to everybody, our first one we've had in a while. And he was filling them with information that we had been contacted about regarding a velo club that wants to bring many hundreds of people through this area and was looking for attractions, looking for opportunities to stop, places to stay, places to camp. And that was a long procedure to do that. I mean, it took a lot of time to stuff those. We had to put them into envelopes. We had to mail them. So the time is, or the cost is with not administration, as you would call it, it's actually with human resources. And that being said, that's probably, you know, you can't mechanize that, so that took some time, and we get those all the time. We fulfill everything that comes in via whether our website gets a request for information or whether it comes in by telephone. We document it. We have a dialogue with the people that are calling. If it's on the phone, we ask them what attracted them to this area, what they like, what they would look forward to if they came here. We try to create a real conversation so we can build on that, and we keep notes of those things. So that's all man hours. It's not just, like I said, determining where we're going to put our advertising. You have to do that in order to have a successful tourism program. Also, we go out to events as they're happening here. We build on those events. Now, I understand that some of the people see a lot going on in Fulton County. Well, that's because you read a lot in the paper, and those programs up there and those events have nurtured, and we have nurtured, for 20 years in some cases. So naturally they've grown, but it was the hands-on connection that we had with those promoters or those event organizers or those communities that made those things grow to what they are today. And that is labor that is doing that. It's time consuming. So the vast majority of that cost is actually doing these ancillary programming things. And it's about that makes the program work in any community. And Tompkins County does the same thing too. They have a full staff of tourism people that actually have a hands-on relationship with people, whether they be callers from Long Island or New Jersey, or whether they be event organizers within the county. And it's a very diverse program. It's somewhat of a complicated program, but it is requiring more time. So, I think the average cost of putting together, administering a grant that the state of New York puts out is about, the cost of doing that is about 8 to 10%. You're right. But that's just administering that particular grant. It's not operating a business. So I don't know if I've been long-winded here, but if you have other questions more precise to what you want to know, you can ask them. But I just try and give you an overview of what the tourism department actually does. It's staffed. In whole, between the two counties, we actually have 5 people working, most of them part-time, but we have a large staff. I mean, up at Fulton County, because we also operate the visitor center, there's 2 extra people working there. But they too take calls, they facilitate all the needs of people calling in for information.
Well, I would like to hear the second half of my question. Really had to do with if you have any metrics, any way to measure success.
Well, what we do is, of course, it's difficult, but the state of New York every year comes out with traveler dollars. I get those every year, and we look at them, and hopefully, we're like farmers in the tourism business. A lot of it is dependent on the weather. A lot of it is dependent on the dollar, the cost of gas, and things like that. So there's other outside forces that are, complicating the situation of tourism. But and trying to gain constant upward results. But what we do, we look at the traveler dollars that the state of New York puts out, and they have certain metrics that they have to determine what the tourism dollars are in particular counties, and they do it for every county throughout the state. Now, we ourselves, we measure, you can't always do it by a paper or a tally of people that are coming in, but we try the best we can to measure the results of certain venues, the numbers of people that are going there. We look at, for instance, in Fulton County, we look at Johnson Hall. Down here, we'll look at people visiting our town. Those are the type of measurements you take. And again, that's another thing that's time consuming, but we do that type of thing.
Do you have some of those things available for me if I want to see them?
I can get those things for you, sure. I don't know that I have anything from Montgomery County. It's been a year, so we haven't had the opportunity down here to do a lot of that type of thing, but I'm certain we can get you stuff. If you want to see the history of Fulton County and how we do things, I can get you some of those things.
No, because I'm particularly interested in a strategy here. And what about that? Like, what is the strategy for increasing tourism, say, in Montgomery County? You make that determination? Independent of...
what I tried to do is replicate the system we've had in Fulton County. In my history with the Fulton County tourism, I have a passion for tourism. I really do. Me and two other folks started that 30 years ago as volunteers. And we started putting together events, we started doing this and that, and it became too time consuming for volunteers to do it because we grew the program. At that point, we went to the county. It was Pete Wilson at the time. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He was the longtime clerk of the board up there. Asked him if there was any chance of getting some kind of funding so we could at least hire a part-time person to come on and do this type of thing. And that was just simply events. We weren't even going to the state. We weren't looking for matching funds. We just needed someone to do the hands-on work that is necessary to try to help out these people that are doing events and going to venues and trying to, give them all types of, as best we can, give them, guidance as to how to do things and create a good program and create a good event. But they did that. They started with a low amount of money, and today they funded us for the past 30 years consistently because, we've been able to show results. And again, it's not always tangible that I can bring you numbers. I can show you at a certain event that has grown. Walleye Challenge. We started that event in conjunction with people from the Mayfield, Sacandaga area. It started with 250 people signing up. We've had to expand to the point where now it's 1,750 people. Mm-hmm. So, those are the types of results we can show you, those things. And, they're not scientific, but they are, of course, in a sense there, because we can show you actual physical numbers. But in other cases, you might just look at an event and do an overview. For instance, the Northville Adirondack Woodworkers Show. That started with very few people coming to it, and we helped them along with that. And that grew to the day now. We're, again, estimating 6,000 people for that weekend.
I go to that.
So we would do the same down here. That's our goal. I want to replicate the program that has made tourism in Fulton County a success and brought that to roughly $51 million in travel monies, $50 million in travel dollars. Whereas down here, I just got the stats, and it's about $38 million. But there's no reason. You have the same amount of venues. You have more down here. You have more assets here that we can build on than we have in Fulton County. And as for, I think the comment was made by somebody, if the chamber, we make no money off of tourism. It's simply our mission. We have to spend everything we get. We can't make money, of course, off the grant, as you know. We can't make money off of what you pay us. What comes in goes out, and we have to justify every expenditure.
You're talking about the $55,000 administrative fee?
Yeah. We justify.
How's that broken down again, that $55,000?
If my old memory suits me, we have 50,000 of that, 20,000 is for a tourism associate, 30,000 goes toward the salary of our tourism director, and the other 5 is on things like printing, memberships in various organizations, because we are in a different region here. We have to join them separately. Ancillary costs like mileage, travel expenses.
Do you mind just a few more questions?
I've got the whole night.
Okay, because I want to talk a little more about that tourism director. What is the total salary for that tourism director, including the $30,000 that we contribute?
About $60,000 by the time you add in all the benefits and everything. It is $60,000. Thereabouts.
And what was it before the county came
When it was Fulton County alone?
Before Montgomery County started to contribute, what was that position paid?
$36,000. But now she's operating two counties.
That answers my question.
That's more.
That's good. I appreciate that, thank you. So the last one is just getting back to strategy, just a little bit. If there was, other than anecdotal, is there some place, a sheet of paper that kind of outlines what your strategy is for developing tourism?
Do we have a strategic plan? No.
Yeah. Thank
We
you.
don't have a written strategic plan for tourism. We haven't had a strategic plan. I don't remember the strategic plan. I think we had one maybe 30 years ago, but now it's become part of our business. And I mean, we review what we do, but we don't have a 5-year plan. And you're absolutely right. Maybe we should do that. I mean, maybe we're sitting back too much on our successes and relying on that to continue. But I don't think that's a bad idea.
See, my problem was just seeing this money spent like routinely, without a specific goal.
Well, I mean, our goal is, again, our mission is to create more tourism revenues for the county so that the county so that the businesses in the county can support themselves, plus pay county taxes, property taxes, at the same time collect more sales tax from people outside the area.
Yeah, I
That's the goal of tourism.
understand. I understand that's a general goal of tourism, but I meant a means to achieve the goal, the plan. You don't have a strategic plan.
Well, it means achieving it is we just try to promote the types of events that we think are suitable for the area, that we find are cohesive, and like Legislator Wheeler said, to be regional.
But that's
I mean,
what I'm talking about.
My goal, I do have a strategic plan, it's up here, I don't have it on paper, but I've spoken with folks from the New York State Department of Tourism, and I've given them my idea of creating a separate region here, because our governor likes to think out of the box, likes the idea of certain regions. And right now, we're in Cap Saratoga in the north, and we're in central well, it used to be Leatherside, the central region in the south. And I just think that's not advantageous to us, because then we could spend more dollars in one ad instead of two. But right now, by law, we have to put 2 ads, one for Montgomery, one for Fulton, whereas we could regionalize and get more bang for our buck. But that's not possible this time, but that's my goal. That's part of
The plan is in your head. I mean, do you
It
share
is.
with anybody in case you have an emergency appendectomy or anything? I mean,
Well, I've shared.
That's
it
what
with
I'm
my
talking
tourism
about,
director and
routine.
folks there.
that's what I'm talking about. I just don't want to see this money spent in a perfunctory manner, routine manner, without us understanding fully what it's supposed to be doing. And so the anecdotes, I understand, and I think that, I've stated publicly, I'm not taking any issue with what you do. I'm just trying to see to it that we spend this money in a way that makes sense, so that it achieves some kind of a goal other than a general goal of increasing tourism. And so we don't know if that's happening or not.
Well, I mean, we see the numbers. Like I said, the state of New York provides us with those every year. And, we can base it on that if we want to. My personal goal is to get 1 million people to come to Montgomery County and spend it wherever they can. Whether it be at an apple orchard, at the fun fair, or at the Mohawks game. It's irrelevant to me where they spend the money. I just want to bring them in from New Jersey and Long Island and places outside the region, because that's what we're compelled to do. That's the true nature of tourism, is to bring them from outside to come in. And, not we have to rely on our own folks to generate those tax revenues.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Legislator White?
I just have a couple quick points that I want to throw out, or opinions. And I do apologize for coming in late, so if some of this stuff was already discussed, so be it. But first, I want to say that I support Legislator Duchessis in his effort or desire to have a strategic plan. I think I've made myself clear on my view on the value of planning. You can see it in communities, even in Amsterdam, going back to 2003 with the city's comprehensive plan and what's happening in Amsterdam now. So the value of planning is unmatched, and I fully support the legislator on a strategic plan for tourism. I think that would be a great thing moving forward. As far as the chamber is concerned, thank you, Mark, for being here, and your answers really provided a lot of clarification, I think, for all of us. The only thing that I would request, and I don't know, again, if this has been planned or not, but I just request that before we make any formal decision if we were to move away, that we could at least hear a presentation from the chamber about their accomplishments during the first 10 months. Of course, it's only been 10 months, so there are certain metrics that aren't there that you wouldn't be able to see until a year, and then there's always, I mean, it takes a long time to steer a ship a different way. But I just request that if we are going to potentially make any changes, that we at least have an opportunity or the chamber has an opportunity to speak to as what they have accomplished over the last 10 months and what they see themselves doing over the next 12 and 24 months.
Legislator Quackenbush, and then Legislator Witt, because he hasn't had a chance to speak yet.
I just was wondering, Mark, we've heard a lot tonight about a possible strategic plan. If we were to go ahead and do this for another year, do you think that's something that you could provide for us with our help? If you don't have our input, I don't know how you plan something if you don't know it. So we need to be as diligent about meeting with you, or at least our economic development or whatever, to let you know what we think we're looking for too. But working together, do you think that's something that can be accomplished?
I think that's absolutely a great idea. And like I said, I don't think I was being diligent enough in not having a strategic plan for the next 5 years. And I've probably been sitting back on my laurels a little bit in us operating our tourism. But I think that's great. I think you do need the public perspective and input to really get an idea of what's here, and with the understanding that there is a common sense way of developing a tourism product, being the county. But absolutely, I think we certainly do need the opinions of you folks as well as the people that are in the tourism business. We have to include everybody in this, but it's needed and we can do it.
Thank you.
Well, just to follow up on that point, so could we make that part of the upcoming contract?
Sure.
Now, just to follow up on an advisory committee or planning committee on our strategic plan, our occupancy tax actually established an advisory board, and when we came into office, we adjusted that law so that it would meet our form of government. And I don't see why even if we don't continue down the path of the chamber, or if we do and still have the bed tax fund to support the local advertising that we do within the county from those funds, I think that we should reappoint and reestablish that committee and have that committee to play an integral role in the strategic plan of our tourism in Montgomery County. And I think also by having that advisory board, which gets funds directly from those visitors who come to Montgomery County to spend a day or a few days a weekend, they're spending money here, and we can calculate, is there an increase in tourism? Because generally those are going to be tourists who are staying in those bed and breakfasts or those hotels or those motels. I think that's something that needs to be integrated into our strategic plan, so that we can quantify the data to see if our plan is working or not. And if it works, then we'll see a growth in our bed tax fund so that we can increase our advertising of our local events, such as the Fuvapa event, or Music on Main Street, or the Riverling Park events. I think it's something, looking at tourism as a whole, we've not only neglected to really give advice on how we'd like to see our tourism program be driven. And I've lost my train of thought. Bob, you're after Barb.
Thank you. One of the things I just wanted to mention, if they could be included in the plan, was we have a lot of historical
I'm sorry.
that's okay, components to Montgomery County. So while they may not be necessarily businesses, if they could be included around the businesses, that would be much appreciated, as they're beautiful gems to the Mohawk Valley and the region. So Kelly Farquhar has been a major asset to Montgomery County. So any way she could be helpful. I know that Legislator Whites has been a big proponent of that as well. So
If I could just make a proposal that we move on with this, and that we come to a consensus among us that we need to do strategic planning. It's not going to be immediate. At least I know you may differ opinion as far as whether we should have something in place now until we do that. And I think also that we need to establish who has an interest from this body in working in a committee or subcommittee or ad hoc committee with the chamber or whatever we do to move this forward.
Oh, and also, tonight is just to discuss not only what we want to see our tourism program to do, but also, we have to decide who we're going to represent us as the agents of the I Love New York funds. That we're not putting up dollars tonight, we're designating an agent. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's, the funding comes later.
You have to designate an agent. Well, the process actually started on October 1st, but that's something that you can go back and do. By November 3rd, there's another process that has to start. And I think the TPA is sometime like December 1st, you have to assign one before then. So, but the process takes time. So, you have to make that decision at some point where what's going to be valuable for next year.
Do you have something? And he hasn't spoken yet.
okay.
We're sharing.
I would yield to
Okay.
legislator with it.
I was just going to propose the chamber that if you wanted to open the discussion, I will wait for that.
All right. Yes. Well, I just had a question for Mark. Can you envision a valid or a good tourism program without participating in that? In other words, if the committee identified some of the needs that they had, do you think that?
The value of I Love New York is you get the matching funding to spread out your dollars more outside the area advertising. I would never advocate for not utilizing that. Can you have a program without it? Yeah, but you can, for that, you would be very limited as to what you could do to draw the tourists in. I view it as an investment as opposed to an expense. The more you invest in that, the more you're going to get a return on it. So, but anything could be done.
Yeah.
But
I'm just wondering what you thought of the quality of the program. It sounds to me like you think it wouldn't be a very high quality tourism program without I Love New York.
Again, advocating with the chamber, anything we do is going to be high quality. I'll guarantee that right now. But again, what we utilize for our advertising is the matching funds. So, certainly that's a major portion of what you would be doing, or how that would contribute is going to be a major portion of the tourism or program.
Any other discussion?
I propose to put the chamber in for 1 year. And that would give them time to do a strategic plan, meet all the needs of the body. They have experience with the I Love New York program, the matching funds. I think we've communicated all of the needs, the wishes of the body. Clearly, every need.
Is that in the form of a motion?
It is. Resolution designating the Chamber of Commerce as tourism promotion agency, economic development, and tourism.
I'll second the motion.
Now, in that, does it designate for 1 year?
1 year.
Megan, do we need to add wording into this one that you have?
I think we should add that after the second whereas. No, actually, first resolve clause
The blank.
to amend it after adding in Chamber of Commerce after agency for the period of 1 year to add it in, if you want that to be part of the stipulation.
Commencing January 1, 2016.
Yeah.
We're in discussion, I suppose.
Yeah, there's
Should we add something in about the chamber will also prepare a strategic plan or participate in the strategic plan during that term?
Sure. I'm good with that.
Where would you like that in the
I
resolution?
think we could say and further resolve that
The chamber will work in conjunction with legislature for,
in crafting a strategic plan for tourism.
I can support this, but what resolution exactly are we rescinding? What is
there's a 3-year proposal.
246 of,
246.
Wasn't 246 authorizing the executive to sign agreement for
214.
Yes, right here.
it was entering into an agreement for 3 years.
okay. I know we have these memorized, just tonight.
Could we just go over the last further resolve? The chamber will work in conjunction with the county legislature to formulate a strategic plan.
Prepare.
Prepare.
Legislative question.
I just was wondering if it would be more appropriate to have the resolution designating as one resolution. That's what we're actually doing here. And then have a resolution entering, don't we have to have a resolution later, actually?
We do have a second one that would be
Isn't that where we
for
would
the
put
I
this?
Love New York.
Isn't that the one that we would put isn't that the one where we would put where we want the strategic plan and what they're going to do for us? They're going to do the I Love New York, create a strategic plan, blah, 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 or would you do it in this one? And it doesn't matter to me, I'm just asking.
Well, if we designate them as our agent, and then we decide not to fund them for some reason, they wouldn't have the money to do our strategic plan and work in conjunction with.
Mr. Chairman, I think when we reach the point of agreement consensus, that's the time to move forward. Let's just include it in this resolution, and we'll deal with the other things separately.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing, do I get a second on that amendment?
Barbara sponsored, Ryan seconded.
Yeah.
I'll second the amendments.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, do we
I
want to?
just included it on the
Yeah.
resolution
All right.
as a,
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, carried. All right,
I should have on there as a state.
okay. You got that? Motion,
Are you going to do that other one to full board? To do the
to
two?
full board.
Both of them?
No, just that one.
just that one.
We're not doing that
We're
other.
not
I don't,
funding
they
it.
didn't talk about it.
We don't need to do that.
We don't need to fund at this point.
Well, there's already.
And there's a, yeah, there's a sensitive line item.
What was, can I see a copy of the resolution?
And then Mark said we could do that.
Any other discussion on tourism for the committee? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ryan and myself.